With so much content on YouTube, the amount of work you put into your videos has become ever more important. While focusing on getting the best title, thumbnail, and tags certainly helps, the quality of your content is what's going to matter the most at the end of the day. If the video isn't presented in a format that's typically accepted by the audience you're trying to get, then you'll have an extraordinarily hard time seeing any success. The time someone spends editing the visuals of a video is one of the main factors that contributes to its quality. There are some people that record videos on their 2009 digital camera and uploads them with no editing whatsoever. But as you go up the chain of quality, that person may add jump cuts to get rid of the unnecessary space in between their sentences, and maybe an intro. From there, you go on to add some sort of interesting visuals that will differentiate you from the rest of the others. But as you put more and more work into the editing, you get to a point where it tends to almost be unnecessary. Regardless of how much time is spent on the visual portion of the content, video editing can be considered an art form at all levels. The techniques that someone uses to get their personality across within their content is one of the most fascinating things to witness. That's part of what makes YouTube so special. Everyone has the opportunity to display some sort of uniqueness about themselves. There are an incredibly large amount of different styles and genres of content. In such a vast pool of creators, it can admittedly be hard to think of visual styles that stand out. When editing my own content, I try to take influence from others while putting my own spin on things. As long as I continue to experiment and add slight changes to things, it will inevitably become my own style. You can judge someone's personality solely on the content that they consume. So if I take influence from the videos that I watch, while also putting my own unique ideas on said influence, then hopefully my content will be one step closer to representing me as a person. Lately, I've been experimenting with a few different styles for the visual portion of my videos. I'll use cinematography in one video or motion graphics in another, but throughout almost all of my content there are similarities, whether that would be the transitions, backgrounds, stock footage, music, and whatever else. For example, the intro that I use in every one of my videos. While the intro itself is not always the same, the method behind why I use an intro is. Using an intro accomplishes multiple things for me. There is a phenomenon known as the mere exposure effect. The more you see a certain brand name or icon, the more likely you are to remember that thing later on. That's why advertising is so heavily focused on ensuring you know about a company and their products. They want their name in your mind so that you might buy something from them later on. Using an intro works in a similar way, as it puts the name Lewex into the person's mind and associates that name with my content. Having an intro also helps establish quality. Over the time that I've had my channel, I've used 3 different intros. Each one displays the quality of my editing for the time period that I used it in. As my content got better, my intros got better. It's a nice way to establish the art style of my channel. And also, it's just cool to have an intro, while also being unnecessary. While intros are definitely important to me, they aren't as big of a deal as the content itself. From time to time, I've had people ask what software I use to edit my videos. For people interested in motion graphics and visual editing in general, people tend to use Adobe Premiere and After Effects. But for a good amount of time, I've followed the philosophy that creativity comes from limits. As such, I've been using a program called Camtasia Studio 9 for video editing and Paint.net for photo editing. Knowing how to use these, I've tried my best to see how far I can push the limits of these 2 programs. I've managed to establish a few different styles throughout that time. One of the things I've always thought about is defining a distinct style. I would love it if there was a day when people could look at a single frame from one of my videos and instantly recognize that I was the one that made it. A good example of someone that has done this very thing extremely well in the past is my favorite YouTuber, Mama Max. His animated pencil sketch aesthetic has stayed in my mind ever since the first time I saw it. Over time, the long-term goal is to be able to do something with a similar result. One of the things I've done to differentiate my content is attempt to make it more cinematic through the use of widescreen. While it certainly has become a lot more common on YouTube, it fits my style and isn't worth changing because of its newly found popularity. There was a good amount of time when I tried to heavily theme the content that I was making. I had specific backgrounds and transitions that I used, but what I found is that staying with the same consistent art style makes the editing process significantly more boring. Having the freedom to put whatever I want on screen makes the whole process incredibly enjoyable. All in all, editing is something that I enjoy quite a bit. I once compared it to Minecraft in that you have the freedom to create whatever you want. Is my editing art? Well, that's up for the viewer to decide. I personally try to make it as expressive in any way that I can, but whether it does that or not is totally up to you. I certainly have way more to learn and a lot to try. By no means am I saying that I'm any good at any of this. I just wanted to share some of my thoughts about it, which, at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. If art is in the eye of the beholder, then video editing is merely my creative outlet.